Today on the CTV News at 5. Whoop Up Days kick off with pancakes, a parade, and plenty of fun. Plus, the cost of Alberta flood damage is pegged at $5 billion. And why the city of Lethbridge must release certain information about frozen investments.
CTV News with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. It's been a Lethbridge tradition for decades. The streets close down, people take time out of their busy schedules, and everyone celebrates the grand opening of the city's biggest event. Organizers say this year's Whoop Up Days parade drew a record number of floats, and many of them only registered in the last 10 days. Jeanette Roche has more.
Music is in the air, and dancing has hit the streets. It's all a telltale sign that Whoop Up Days has officially begun.
It's a beautiful day and everybody here is really, really excited to be here. There's good energy, so it feels good to be here.
From new businesses to local celebrities to dignitaries, it took thousands of people from miles around to bring the Whoop Up Days parade together.
It's tremendously exciting to be down in Lethbridge. It's a great city, and Whoop Up Days have always been a part of my life. As a kid, we'd come down as a family, take part in the events, and it brings me back to my youth.
The weather could not have been better for this year's kickoff to Lethbridge's biggest annual event. The Whoop Up Days parade has drawn thousands of spectators and about 150 floats. The parade may have started at 10 a.m., but it was an early morning. Judging began at 6. About 14 judges have the tough job of evaluating these floats in a dozen different categories.
One of the most important categories is the community organizations. We see a tremendous amount of community support and lots of colorful entries from a variety of community organizations.
The big winner of the day was this float by LA chefs. Those who spent countless hours on their floats say it was worth the effort. The Sterling Haunted House took a prize home for visiting floats, which they say is a great way to get exposure for their community.
People love our float because it's different, and the reception from the people is just wonderful.
Jeanette Roche, CTV News, Lethbridge.
As Jeanette mentioned, the grand aggregate award winner for the parade was LA Chefs Catering and Events, and they also won the best large commercial entry. Best small commercial entry prize went to Serendipity Childcare. The best community organization float was won by Lethbridge and District Pro-Life Association. From the best visiting entry category, City of Kimberley takes first place. The best children and youth float went to the Society of the Centre of Francophone of Lethbridge. Now, the best historical entry was won by the Broxburn Vegetables with a 1953 Field Marshal tractor. The best equine entry was Sierra, the Trick Rider. The comic and novelty float prize was won by Trapper James Beer. And the most entertaining entry of all, the Cranbrook Girls Bugle Band. Now, not only was it an early morning for parade judges and float entrants, but plenty of folks were up early flipping flapjacks.
Drifting along with a tumbling tumbleweed.
Many parade watchers were up at the crack of dawn, tumbling down to the Interfaith Food Bank, where the 7th annual pancake breakfast attracted hundreds of people. Richardson Oilseed is a major sponsor of the event, but they also get a lot of help from other businesses too. Staff from the Family Center are on hand to provide family entertainment. Organizers say it's a chance to get together and celebrate, but all of the proceeds go back to the food bank programs.
You know, we're very fortunate to see our numbers actually starting to come down a little bit this year in comparison to past years. Need is still high. We have had some support going out to surrounding areas that were affected by the flood as well. But as long as people continue to give, we'll be able to help families in need here in Lethbridge.
There are a few other Whoop Up Days breakfasts going on this week, including Rick Grill's tomorrow at 7 a.m. and the Canadian Blood Services Office 8 a.m. on Thursday. If you love a good thrill, the Midway is in full swing at Lethbridge's Exhibition Park. The park has been transformed into a Midway with over 30 rides, lots of food, and great entertainment. The Midway is open from 1 p.m. until 11 p.m. from tonight through Saturday. Whoop Up Days will also feature nightly concerts, live entertainment, a pro rodeo, and fireworks. Dory, just when you thought it was too good to be true, more sun is on the way, and temperatures could get up to, you were saying, 32 degrees by Thursday? Oh,
Yes, I know, it's amazing. And actually, we're only looking at one sort of partly cloudy to mostly cloudy day, and that's Friday. But even then, the temperature will be 27 degrees. So we've got a really good stretch ahead. There is some interesting weather happening around the country, though, and I'll tell you all about it in a couple of minutes.
all right. Thank you, Dory. Well, tents have been banned at Crandell Mountain Campground because of heavy bear activity. The Crandell Mountain Campground in Waterton Lakes National Park has been closed to tents because of a high number of bears in the area. Only hard-sided campers and trailers are going to be allowed. Tenters are going to be moved to the Waterton Town Site Campground. Incidents of bears investigating tents for food is what prompted the ban. And campers are being warned about a furry visitor in Bow Valley Provincial Park. A black bear has been spotted hanging around Three Sisters Campground. So far, it hasn't caused any problems, but people are being told to hide food, keep their campsites clean. Last week, a black bear had to be destroyed at Mount Kidd RV Park when it was discovered in a mesh dining tent with food that had been left out. The city of Lethbridge has been ordered to release information from in-camera meetings where discussions were held about more than $30 million in frozen investments. An application was originally filed under the Freedom of Information Act by council critic and aldermanic candidate Bob Babke on behalf of 21 individuals. Babke died before the application was processed, but it was resubmitted 2 years later by his son Brett. When Babke originally applied for the documents, many of the pages were blanked out, including the names of funds the city invested in and a 14-page credit agreement. Now an adjudicator has ruled the city improperly withheld portions of the minutes of in-camera meetings of both city council and an audit committee meeting. The adjudicator determined the city had the right to apply the FOIP Act on some, but not all, of the information contained in the minutes. Lethbridge Mayor Rayco Dodick says the city isn't prepared to embrace an unproven system for coordinated ambulance dispatch across Alberta. Alberta Health Services is planning to centralize ambulance dispatch for the entire province. The city of Lethbridge says it can understand consolidating dispatch centers for cities like Calgary and Edmonton, but warn it won't work here. Lethbridge already has an integrated dispatch system where one communications center handles calls for police, fire, and EMS. Mayor Dodick says doing it on a one-size-fits-all basis makes no sense.
The model that the province has basically said they are going with is that they will be centralizing ambulance dispatch. So Lethbridge's ambulance will be dispatched from Calgary. We will still maintain dispatch of police and fire, but frankly, that makes absolutely no sense to us. Our system has worked very well for decades and decades, and why the province is doing this on a one-size-fits-all basis makes no sense to us.
Lethbridge City Council has written to the province outlining its position. Councillors are also urging local residents to contact or write their MLAs to express their concerns. 2 months after local rivers overflowed their banks, the cost of rebuilding is becoming more clear. Premier Alison Redford says infrastructure repairs from June flooding will top $5 billion across Alberta. Redford spoke to a radio show and said that she has spoken with Prime Minister Harper about the cost. She says Harper has made a commitment to cover some of the bill, but Redford says these expenses mean tough times ahead for our province as the government rejigs an already tight budget.
There's no doubt, and I think everyone knew that when that flood hit Alberta, that we were going to have a financial impact. And I was very honest about that from the very beginning. I think within 2 or 3 days of the flood, that this has changed what we're going to have to invest in infrastructure.
Meanwhile, Alberta Liberal leader Raj Sherman was in Lethbridge to meet local Liberal constituents and get feedback on a number of issues facing the province. His visit included a fundraising barbecue today at Galt Gardens. He's also meeting with post-secondary students and educators. Sherman attacked the provincial government for funding cuts to colleges and universities. He says those cuts come at a time when the government should be putting more money into job training and education.
Alberta students have amongst the highest tuition and fees in the country, amongst the highest class sizes in the country, and at a time our province is growing more than ever. I don't understand why the Redford Conservatives are cutting education. We need to prepare our economy for the future by investing in education today, not cutting it.
Time now for our weekly look at the world of agriculture with Farm TV. This week it's all about water measurements. Take a look.
Before you can manage water, first you have to be able to measure it. Over 80 participants attended the 2013 Water Measurement Workshop held in August at the Lethbridge Irrigation Development Centre in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. The workshops took place over several days, covering topics such as on-farm water measurements, water data management, and measuring in extreme conditions.
John Shelton from the USGS South Carolina, who had gone down to the Congo River with National Geographic and did a bunch of measurements in some of the biggest and worst conditions for river flow, one of the largest conditions in whirlpools, and also part of biology, trying to find out what kind of fish are down in the deep depths. So that was our keynote kicking off the event.
Why measure water?
Well, more and more, unlike this year, but other years we have drought years, water management and measurement is quite important. To manage water, be able to measure it. So we want to be able to quantify how much we're coming down from the mountains into the reservoirs, and that every farmer has his allocation.
This was the third time the workshops have been held at the Lethbridge Irrigation Development Centre.
It's focused mainly on irrigation. We've got 3 large irrigation pivots, a couple smaller ones from different manufacturers. We've got wheel lines, urban irrigation.
Farm TV is brought to you by DA Building Systems.
Straight ahead, Dory's got more on your whoop-up weather forecast. Coming up next, though, here are the day's markets. Down for both the dollar and crude, but up for the TSX.